This video describes the get command input function. This function displays a list of commands expected from the user, then prompts for a selection. The calling program passes the function a command list name. The function then searches a text data file for the specified command list, fetches and displays the commands in the list, then prompts the user to select a command. GetCommand returns a default command selection if none is entered. The programmer would then process the user's command selection. How to copy the function and test driver code from my web page was described in the previous video, String Input Function. You are watching a Tom's Tech Notes video. If you like this video, please wait until you are finished watching it, then click my name, Thomas Wallace, to visit my channel page. A welcome video will play to describe my other videos. This is the data file used in the demonstration of the function. I'll show you how it is laid out. You can create this file for now just using the Notepad editor. In the future, I will develop a set of functions to allow you to easily edit this file. Each record in the file has up to 4 fields separated by commas. You should not have spaces in those fields unless absolutely necessary, such as between 2 words in a phrase like enter command. The records in the file are of 3 types. A header record for each function list that has the name of the list, the prompt to be displayed for the list when the user enters commands from the list, the default selection to be returned to the caller if the user simply presses return when prompted. And as I said, we're using 4 fields, so we need at least 4 fields filled in, and you can fill in extra fields if you need to with comma and space, or comma and any other character, but it must have at least 1 space in it. 2 adjacent commas are treated as 1 comma. 4 fields. The header record is this one. The preamble records follow the header record, and they are displayed at the top before the command list. And they are type 2, that's the identifier. And then the first field gets displayed from each of the preamble records out through here on that record. Then following the preamble records are the command records, and they begin with the code 3 to show the program that that's a command record. Then the letter for the function or name of the function that the user would enter. Then a description of what that command is, and again fill it out to 4 fields, so at least have a comma space here. That would make 4 fields. I put in 6 fields in general just in case I change the program and I need more fields. So there are all the commands for that particular list called edit record. Now the next list starts with another header record, and I called it edit record 1 for the purposes of this demo. And then I have the prompt, a slightly different prompt. That one was enter command. This is enter your answer. And the default now is C. That's the command C on the list copy record. And then the last one in the demos file is called file manage. And here's the prompt, enter file command. We'll see how all that's used in the demo. And that's the default for this one. It's the word none. It's not one of the selections, it's the word none. The calling program will process whatever is returned and figure out what to do next. So if he didn't enter a file command, he would see none, and then the calling program would decide what it is he wants to ask the user for next, or what he wants to do next. And then I have one more version of the file manage command list called file manage 1. It has the same prompt, and it has a default of required. And what you might do as a programmer is put required in there, and then when it returns with required, tell the user you have to make an entry and then loop back and ask for that same command list again after telling the user that he has to select something from the list or abort the program. And you could, of course, provide an abort entry in the list and process that if the user selected that. Again, this is a building block for a program. And there's only 3 commands in that last file management function. So we'll demonstrate using this file. First of all, I did have to make a very slight change to the getString function described in a previous video, and I'll describe what that change was. I basically added a parameter, and I'll show you the code and explain what it does. Here's the getString function. The way it worked in the previous video, it did not have this last parameter, return after illegal entry, yes or no. And what it did was, on an illegal entry, it looped and reprompted the user for a string input after telling him that that string input was illegal. Since the way the get command function works is a separate piece of code lists the commands before it calls this function to do the prompting, you need it to return to the calling program on an illegal entry so that the programmer can re-prompt with the list of commands for that entry. So we'll see how that works when we get into the program itself. So you can set this to yes or no. And I set the default for that return on illegal entry to no. If you set it to yes, it will return on an illegal entry. And again, the command program, the get command program, will re-prompt with the list of commands. But we'll see how that works. So very simple to add a parameter the way I have this program set up. So there's the default, there's the input value, the 6th parameter from the call to this function. Again, I added an entry here for the program working version. I set it, this was described in the earlier description of the function, but this sets the working value of that parameter to the default, which again is no. Then I check it to find out how the user modified it when he called getString. This has all been described before. I have a program error check here that should never really occur, just in case there's a program error. After the user has entered a value for the getString, if it wasn't one of the choices, that means it was an illegal entry. If the new parameter is set to no, it just does what it did before and it goes back and asks for another input. But if it's set to yes, it just returns the value, the word illegal. So then in the calling program, get command program, I'll look for get illegal, and if it's illegal, I'll re-prompt with the command list. So you'll see how that works when we demonstrate the function. So here's the test program I'm using. And it starts out by setting command list to none and then prompts the user for an input. Remember, you have to set, when you use this prompt command, you have to preset this guy. Otherwise, if he just hits return, it won't have a defined value. So you set it to none. If he just hits return, it'll still say none. So then you say, okay, did he just press return? Fine, then we're done. And if he did enter something other than none, then it'll call get command to search for that entered command list name, and then it will return a value of the actual command he entered from that list and some other special values that we'll see in the code if he didn't enter a valid value from the command list. But we'll see what happens. There's a echo here of the actual command entered. So we'll just run a few values through it. Remember, I have sample guys in the test file called edit record, sample command list in there with this name, edit record, searches the text file for the name edit record, finds it, then displays the preamble and the commands from that command list, edit record. Doesn't display the edit record header list. It's the one before the preambles here. Now, it's waiting for these entries, and the data file had a default set for this command list, and it was the F for find record. So if we just press enter, it'll return the F. Then it asks for another command list name. That's just the code over here. It's what it does. It just loops back. And so this time I'll enter I'll look for record 2, it's called edit record 1. I'll look for edit record 1, which is another sample entry. And it found it, and it's quite similar to the other one except that I changed the default to the C command. Again, that's specified in the header record for the command list for edit record 1. So that's the C. And then it's also I did specify the prompt. This one, it's enter command. That is specified in the header record also. I specified enter your answer for this record. Let's go back and take a quick refresh look at the text file so I can refresh your memory what it said. So edit record, the prompt was enter command and the default was F. Edit record 1, the prompt was enter your answer and the default was C. So that's what we're looking at. Now I'll demonstrate file manage. We got enter file command and we have none for a default. And then file manage 1 is another one, enter file command, and I have the default set to the word required. So we'll see how all of those work. So first of all, we're in this list. Let's demonstrate some of the error checking. If, for instance, I don't enter something from the list, like an R. Like an R. It says illegal command entered, try again, and then it reprompts with the list of commands and asks for another entry. Remember, this is the change I had to make because I used getString function. It would not have returned on an illegal entry without that change that I just described on the extra parameter. So then another answer, let's do the default. It'll be the C. Sure enough. Now once another command list, and we'll do file manage. Found that record in the file. Preamble line's a little longer than the recording right now. Let's move this over a little bit. Okay, so I selected file manage. It looked it up. It found out that here it is. There's 3 commands in it. Here's the preamble describing what the user should be doing. Default for file manage is none, the word none. We'll just hit return, and it enters none. Again, the program would then check for none where the file management functions were requested from the user, and he would take action based on the fact that the user declined to specify that. It would probably go back to a screen where we ask for the type of functions the user wants to call up. So maybe he doesn't want to do file management, maybe he wants to do something else, like an edit of a record of the current file, things like that. This is a building block function, remember. Command list names may have embedded spaces, however, commands may not have embedded spaces. There's a name that doesn't exist. It returns the word bad list name, so the programmer would probably abort that, or you could change the code yourself to return an error level like we did in one of our functions, earlier functions, when the programmer forgot to specify a required parameter in the call to the function. So you could change your code so that it, instead of returning bad list name, it sets that error level system variable to some number, and then the caller would check that error level number right after calling get command. Here's a refresher on the text data file. There's a header record that has that information on it for each of the named command lists, followed by as many preamble records as you want with that code too. Only the second field on the preamble records is displayed, the second field. So that's this and this. You'll want to avoid commas in here because that will cut the field off. So it's followed by the command records themselves, and on the display, when you call up this command list, the default is F, and when it displays these commands, it will show the fact that this is the default. It will list default after the F listing for the prompt. The next video will do a code walkthrough for the function. And as I said, it uses the getString function, and it uses a lot of code that's very similar to code we use in the other functions. So this is a learning video to show you things you can do and can't do in the batch programming. I'll try to go over do's and don'ts as we go through the code. Thanks for watching my video. If you like this video, please click my name, Thomas Wallace, to visit my channel page to watch my other videos.